Hello and welcome. I am so excited that you have decided to download this training on these 5 sales scripts that are going to increase your closing rate by 50% or more. And I got to tell you, as I've implemented these over the years, my closing rate now on my products is close to 100%. Now, it wasn't always like that. It definitely wasn't for a long time. And I will also let you in on a secret too. And if you followed me for any amount of time, then you probably already know this. But if not, actually, by the way, hi, I'm Elyse. I'm guessing you know that because you've connected with me online to get this training. But I'm the founder and creator of She Sells. And I'm really, really passionate about empowering women to learn to sell in a way that feels super aligned with how they're naturally wired and what feels good to them, and to make a lot more money, a lot more money. My heart, my passion, my sweet spot is helping women quickly break through that 6-figure mark, but then scale beyond there as well. And so going back to the secret that may not be a secret, if you have been following me for any amount of time, is that I'm actually really not big on scripts. And I'll share with you, I had just one of those really embarrassing moments years ago. I was speaking in front of this big conference of financial advisors. About 300 advisors were in the room. And that was how I generated new clients at the time. I was a sales coach, a partner in this 8-figure international sales coaching organization, had worked my way up to the top ranks of that company. And a lot of how I generated new clients for the business was by going out and doing speaking. And so I was doing a keynote at this conference for financial advisors. And usually what would happen after this is I would have, lots of people reach out and connect with me and want to start working with me as a coach after that to help them grow their sales. And so that happened. But I remember at the time, for some reason, I was really focused on trying to learn our internal sales script better. And there was a lot of focus within this company on scripting and just follow the script, say the words, don't reinvent the wheel. And so I had always had success kind of doing things my own way and doing what felt right. But there'd been a lot of communication coming down the pipeline about follow the script, follow the script, follow the script. So I remember I had a really, really hot lead from the audience. He had seen me speak. He was like, I need to hire you. This is perfect. But I was following our process. I was like, okay, well, let's get on a discovery call. Let's hear about what's going on for you and see if we're a good fit to work together. And we get on the call, and I remember how off it felt the whole time to me, because I was so focused on just trying to follow this script verbatim, word for word. And we get to the end of the conversation, and I could tell that just like we weren't jiving, we weren't clicking, because I wasn't actually present with him. And at the end of the conversation, when it comes time to close, and I kind of go through the closing script and present price and ask him what he thinks about working together, he says something that made my heart sink. He says, could you just stop reading the script and talk to me like I'm a real person? Whew. And now for anyone, like, you're watching this, you're selling, right? Whether you're an entrepreneur, you're running your own business, or whether you're in sales for another company. Can you imagine how, maybe you've had that experience? Hopefully you haven't, but if you haven't, you can imagine how just embarrassing that moment was. And of course, I didn't close the sale, because you can have the best script in the world, but if you're not connecting with someone from the heart, it doesn't matter. They're not going to trust you. And that was such a powerful learning lesson for me that day, though, to use scripts and talking points not as handcuffs, but more as guardrails. So that's really what I want to invite you to think about here, is that, and that's why I'm so big on mindset. And that's why that's really 95% of what I teach my clients, is helping them with eliminating money blocks and rewiring their brain and their identity to become the type of woman who easily and naturally brings in $10,000 a month, $100,000 a month, whatever the goal is. Because in my own experience, when I learned how to do that, when I learned how to rewire my mindset to create whatever level of success I desired, in just 6 weeks, I turned my annual income into my monthly income. I overcame massive limiting beliefs around money, and my sales closing ratio went from about a 30% to 100%. If you want to hear more about that, you can listen to my podcast. There's an episode, The Decision. It's a special episode, so it's actually not numbered, but it's the decision that changed my life. It came out in probably December slash actually January of 2021. So you can go and listen to that on She Sells Radio. But anyway, so I am all of that to say, I'm not a huge scripting person, but I do know that having the right words and the right questions to ask instills confidence. And what I've done here in this training is I've pulled together some of the best talking points and again, like guardrails, right? Things that you can start incorporating into your sales conversation to help increase your closing ratio. Because at the end of the day, if you're a woman who's looking to make more money in her sales and her business, then the thing that really matters is when you get those clients, potential clients on discovery calls or application calls to work with you, that you're closing. And here's the thing I'll say too, it's not about closing everybody, because I want you to have an abundance mindset and know that that discovery conversation is as much you leaning back and evaluating if someone's the right fit to work with you as it is, them evaluating if you're the right person for them to work with. So it's not this like you have to close every person, but it is that when you get an ideal client in a discovery call, you want to get them to a yes. And that's the name of the game in sales. And so I'm pulling together it's really five elements of the sales conversation that for me have made the biggest increase and biggest impact to help close more clients and get to that 100% closing ratio. So wherever you're at in your sales journey, start incorporating these and weaving these into your current process. And I promise you, if you use these and practice these and don't just do it once and you don't get the result you're looking for and throw it away, like practice it again and again and again, just like any master of their craft practices until it becomes part of who they are and they don't even have to think about it. That's what I want you to do. So this is a really important training to take notes on and to be writing stuff down. So go ahead and grab a pen, grab a paper, make sure you've got something to write with. And because my training style is I like to just talk through things and teach, and that's how I tend to teach best. So that's what we're going to do here. So be sure to have something to take notes with so you can be writing down what we're talking about and what you're going to implement to help increase your closing ratio. So there's really, again, five key things, five key scripts / elements of the script that have been hugely impactful for me that I think are going to make a big difference for you as well. Number one is setting the intention. Setting the intention. And I remember learning this about Oprah, and I loved this when I learned it, was that part of what Oprah does in every meeting is she goes into the meeting and asks, what is our intention for this meeting? Because how many times have you gotten on a sales call and kind of just dove right in and there wasn't a clear outcome or objective in mind at the end of it? So one of the most important things that I do in every sales conversation, whether it's an initial, let's say, phone conversation or DM, or whether it's, all the way to the actual for me, I have clients do application calls to work with me, all the way down to the application call, is we set the intention at the beginning. And so what I want you to start thinking about doing, if you're not doing it already, is after you've kind of had your initial pleasantries and niceties, and that's maybe lasting a minute or two, right, of building rapport, then you're going to go in and you're going to set the intention. And let's just say this was a discovery call and you were typically selling, like you had one call. So it's not a long sales process, but it's one call where you're going to talk with someone and decide if you're a good fit to work together. So what I would do before you get into asking questions is just kind of open up the call with, so the intention of this call is for us to see if we're a good fit to work together, and for me to see if I think I can help you accomplish the goals that you're looking for, and for you to see if I feel like the right fit for you. And so use whatever your own version of that verbiage is, but set that intention at the beginning and then just ask, does that sound good? Is that what you were hoping to accomplish in this time together as well? Because what you're doing there is you're getting a clear path defined with a clear goal and a clear outcome of the conversation. Now, notice too, and this actually ties in with the second of these 5 scripts, which is creating what I would call like a buying environment, is that this is not about you setting the intention that everyone has to buy from you. Because again, if you do that, that's going to create a lot of pressure on you and them. And no one wants to be sold, but people do love to buy. So this is kind of segueing from number 1, which is setting the intention early and often. Number 2 is creating that buying environment where You give people, you give people freedom, you give them choices. And so it's really about coming into that conversation with curiosity and with not an agenda of this person has to buy from me or not. Because one of the most important things that transform my relationship with sales and that will transform yours as well is that you get to be committed to the what, but not the how. So in sales, in your sales, you get to be fiercely committed to, I'm bringing in $10,000 this month. I'm bringing in $20,000 this month, right? Fill in the blank with your revenue target, but you don't get to decide who or how that comes in. So what I mean by that is you do not get to decide that it has to be from Mary Jones and she has to buy XYZ. That's not your business. That's God's business. Okay. So I want you to really remember that. Your job is to have an abundance mindset, to show up, to serve, and to really use that conversation with your prospect as a time to uncover, is this person a good fit? Do I want to work with them? Like, do I like their energy? Do I want to commit to spending the amount of time it's going to take me to work with them as a client with this person? Or if I'm being honest, if I didn't feel like I needed the money, would I just say no to working with them? And I want to encourage you that if that's the feeling that you get on a call, that you don't work with someone on, like, it will always, you've got to trust your intuition. It will always turn out poorly if you try to push or force something just to get the money in. So this is where we have to have such an abundance mindset. That's part of why I'm so passionate about that, because that's like a huge piece of the training I do with my clients is, how do you move from scarcity into abundance? When you're in abundance, you never worry about whether somebody has to be your client or not, because you know that your needs are always going to be met. And if it's not meant to be through this person, it's going to be through somebody else. So it's that mindset. But you want to remember, going back to the second point, which is you want to create that buying environment, is having that language at the beginning about the purpose of this conversation is to discover whether we're a good fit to work together or not. How does that sound to you? Then you're really opening up the space where people feel like they can be honest with you. Because if they feel like they're going to be like pushed or forced into working with you, then they're automatically going to have their guard up, and they're not going to want to, when somebody has their guard up, they're not going to buy. Okay. So inadvertently, what happens is when you take the pressure off, people actually want to buy more. Because remember, people hate to be sold, but they love to buy. They hate to be sold, but they love to buy. And so you can also add in some language when you first set that intention of saying, I also just want to let you know that, we're both going into this conversation really to uncover if we're a good fit to work together. And if we both feel like we are by the end of the call, then that's amazing and great. And we can go ahead and get you set up in this program right away so that you can start achieving your goals today. And if we're not, if either of us feels like we're not a good fit to work together too, that's totally fine. This is really about us uncovering what the best right move is in favor of your goals. And I want to ask that you feel totally comfortable letting me know either way at the end of this call what feels right to you. Does that sound good? So you're setting the intention there for them to have made a decision by the end of the call as well, assuming that flows with your sales process. So it's helping to tighten up your whole process, but do it in a really low pressure way. Now, the third of these 5 elements are questions. So you got to remember, when you're talking, you're selling. But when your prospect is talking, they're buying. So you want to talk way less and listen way more when you're in those sales conversations. So these are some of my favorite types of questions to be asking in a sales conversation. And for my clients in my 10K club program, I actually give them a full script that I use on my sales calls. That's phenomenal. And if you want to learn more about that program, send me an email or send me a DM on social media. My team will get back to you on how you can apply. But these are some of my favorite types of questions that you definitely want to make sure that you're including within your sales script. So the first thing is you want to be clear on what they desire. You always want to know, what do they want? And one of my favorite questions to help uncover that is, if you could wave a magic wand, what would happen for you in this area of your life, your business, like whatever it is that you're selling? If you could wave a magic wand, what would that look like? Get them to dream, get them to think big, get them to remove lack and limitation and tell you, what do they actually desire? Another thing you want to be getting clear on are, what are the obstacles that they're running into? So one of the questions I love to ask in relation to that is, once you're clear on the desire, well, what's held you back from accomplishing that in the past? Because we really want to find out, is it a limiting belief? Is it finances? Is it something else? Because you want to find out, what are their objections going to be to working with you? You want to find that out early so that you can start to really focus on that in your sales presentation. You want to hone and craft and tailor your sales presentation to answer the objections that the person has already given you just by asking these questions. And so that's why you want to know what's held them back in the past, because if they weren't having any challenges with it, they'd already be there. So a lot of times it's mindset. It's almost always mindset. But they'll say stuff like time, money, yada, yada. So you want to know what types of objections are you going to have to answer when you get into your part of the presentation. Another huge thing that I want to always uncover by asking questions before I get into my presentation is, what's their sense of urgency with this? So is this like a nice to have, or is this a must? Would this be nice to have, or if it's a must? Because really, if it's not a must for them, I'm not spending the time on the call, because people will only pull out their credit, like for stuff that actually makes them think about investing the money. They're only going to pull out their credit card for something if it's a must. But here's what you must know is that people will always find money for what they must have. And I remember hearing this example from one of my mentors years ago, and it struck me. It was like, gosh, it's so true, is even in the most impoverished communities, in the world, the most impoverished communities in our country, people will always find money for a funeral. They will. And whether they have to ask relatives, whether they have to take out loans, whatever they have to do, they got to sell something, they will find money to honor that loved one. And so if someone is giving you a price objection, what that means is it wasn't a must for them, or you didn't ask the right questions to make it a must. So I want to find out early on, is this like, you think it would be nice to have, but you don't really feel like you've got to have it right now and it's not a must? Or no, is it a must? And if it's a must, why? I need them to tell me why it's a must, because again, they're selling me on why they need to work with me. And I want you to think about that. Your client is selling you on why they must work with you and why it's a must for them right now. And that ties in with the final type of question that I like to include in my discovery is commitment level. So what's the commitment level? And so I'll ask something like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how critical is it for you to make this vision a reality? How critical is this for you right now? And if it's anything less than a 7, I'm probably not going to spend any more time in the conversation. I'm probably going to say that's like, let's reconnect down the road when this is more important. But if it's somewhere between a 7 and a 10, like if it's a 10, awesome. Why? And if it's somewhere between a 7 or a 10, I'll ask, what would need to happen for it to be a 10? And if it's something that's like a mindset shift we can create in the conversation, then I go there and I help them make that mindset shift. But if it's not, then then again, this is about you having abundance mindset and saying, if this person isn't committed, if it's not critical, if it's not a must, why am I spending my time on it? Okay. The fourth part that I want to address with you today in these 5 parts of the sales script to help you increase your closing rate is closing. It is closing. Now, this is so important. And I learned this I want to give a shout out to one of my mentors, Gina DeVee, because when I first learned her selling style, it felt so refreshing to me from many years of corporate masculine, like push everyone into buying from you. And so this is something I learned from her, which I love, is that you're only going to present price once you know it's an absolute must for your client. And this ties back to what I was saying earlier about people always find money for what's a must for them. But so I only present my program, I only present the opportunity to work with me once someone has told me it's a must and why it's a must. So what I'll typically ask once I go through the discovery is, perfect, here's what I'm hearing you saying that you want. Here's how I think we can accomplish that. Would you like to hear how working with me in this program would be together? Would you like to hear how this works? And if they say yes, then you go into benefits and how you're going to help them accomplish their goals. So again, that's really tailored and scripted to what you already heard in that discovery conversation and answering their objections. And then when you're going in and you present the package, you present price, I'll typically give a couple different options. I'll give an option of like a paid in full, which usually has a little discount, not a discount, but it's paid in full, which is less than an installment plan, which has more of like interest added on top of that. So I'll ask them, of these packages I described, which one sounds like the right fit to you? Perfect. Why? You hear it from them. And then when would you like to start working together on this? And so from there, assuming that they say, I need to do this right now, and this is what I want, great. Then you can go ahead and collect the credit card, which, by the way, you should, if you can, collect payment right there on the call so that you're not having to, then wait and give them time to change their mind. Oh, people go into buyer's remorse after they make a decision if you haven't really solidified it well. So I'm a big fan of collect the payment information in the moment when they've said yes. And I've got, again, I teach a lot of my clients like the exact language that you use to get that credit card right there on the phone. But that's really important too, is collecting that payment information right there and then setting up expectations and getting them really excited about working with you. And then the final piece is just answering objections. So this is the fifth and final piece, is answering objections. And I think what you have to know here is that the objections that you hear from someone are usually not the actual objection that they have to working with you. So let's just say, for example, that somebody gives the objection of, this sounds good, but I got to think about it. Okay, you got to read between the lines. You got to know that there's something they're not saying that's holding them back from taking action. And it's usually fear of investing the money. It's fear of the time. It's something that they've already told you that if you've done enough probing, that's the caveat is, if you've done enough probing, they've already told you. But it can be something that's held them back in the past. It's often a mindset issue. So this is part of why when you use those other talking points in the script and you really have someone sell you on why it's a must, then you're able to come back to that. So let's just say someone says, this sounds really good, but I need to think about it. And then if you've done what we've already talked about in this training, you can feel comfortable going in and saying, yeah, sure, I hear you on that. Let me just, if I can, do I have your permission to ask a few more questions about that? Get their permission. Great. So I heard you say earlier that this was a must for you. And is it still feeling like a must for you? Yes, it's still feeling like a must for me. Why is that? Why is it a must for you? And reclose on it being a must. So let me just dig in. And again, like we said at the beginning of this conversation, this is really about you simply arriving at the best choice for you. That's all this is. So if this doesn't feel like a good fit, then that's totally fine. But I'm hearing you say that it is. So what is it in particular that you need to think about? Is it the program structure? Is it me as a coach or mentor? More likely, I'm guessing it's probably the investment. Is that right? And so you can use one of the most important things with handling objections is just saying what you're thinking and not getting too in your head about it. Like if you feel like someone has a money objection and they're just not saying it, you need to say it. You need to verbalize it, not in an accusatory way, but in a, hey, I'm guessing that if I'm putting myself in your shoes, this may be the question on your mind right now, or this may be the thing that you feel like you need to think about. Is that the case? So just say it. Just say it. You'll close far more sales just by saying what's on your mind and saying what you're really thinking and trusting your instincts and your intuition there. But then once they give you the price objection, then you actually know what you're dealing with, because when it's vague and nebulous and it's just I need to think about it, then they're not telling you what they need to think about. And your goal and your mission and your heart in this needs to be that you are with them to help them make a decision, to help them get to the point of decision, whether that's a yes or a no, but so that they can move off the fence and you all can move on. And that is the most important thing, is that a yes is great, a no is fine. It's just maybe land that we don't want to live in, because maybe it's not fun, maybe doesn't serve anybody, and maybe is usually a no that they just don't want to say. So we want to, as part of creating that buying environment at the beginning that's so important, to help them feel like they can tell you what they really want, and whether it's a yes or a no, you've let them know that they're safe to say it. But then when we know it's a price objection, which it usually is, we can help them work through that. And we can help them find resources for, if this is a must, then that's great. And part of my job is to help you find the resources to accomplish this goal, to make this vision a reality. Are you open to have that conversation? And then you can go through with them and help them look at different areas where they probably got money they may not be thinking about. So All of that to say, with the objection, it's almost never what they say up front. And it's important to keep digging. But I want you to really manage your energy during this, because it's not that energy of like, oh my gosh, I've got to push or force this person to buy from me. It's the energy of, this person is a totally ideal client for me. They've said it's a must to work with me too. They want to work with me. So now we're just in this together in solution mode, finding a way to make this work together. So it's that energy, and you'll know the difference in your body because it feels good. And it's that easy flow of conversation. It's not the push or the force. So that's your five elements of your sales script to help increase your closing rate by 50% or more. And so I just want to do a quick recap on those. And I had it pulled up, and now I have, hold on, it's coming. Here we go. Quick recap. All right, awesome. So number one is you want to set the intention early and often. Number two, you're going to create a buying environment. Number three, you're going to let them sell you through asking the right questions. Number four is closing. So remember, you only want to present price when you know it's a must. And then number five, we talked about answering objections and how to do that. So I hope that serves you, and just start using these, start implementing them, start trying them, and see how your closing rate goes up and how you easily bring in way more clients and money than you were before. And so if this is resonating too, and if you're like, gosh, I never knew there was a easier way to sell and a more enjoyable way to sell that feels good to me as a woman and that feels good to my client, then I want to invite you to stay close to me, reach out, inquire about my group program. This is my signature program, 10K Club, where I take a group of women under my wing to help them achieve a 10K month in 90 days or less. And I love, love, love working with the women in that program. It's about speed. It's about, let's make our own rules. Let's get this money coming in fast, make our own rules in a way that is ethical, of course, for everyone. But we play by different rules when we learn how to work with how we're wired as women rather than against it, and things can happen a lot faster. So if you're curious about that, send me an email, Elyse@ElyseArcher.com. You can find out when that's enrolling next. And if there's anything else I can help you with, please shoot me an email, send me a DM on social. I'm at Elyse Archer on every channel. And be sure that you're also subscribed and listening to She Sells Radio as well for more free, great content like this every single week. So cheering you on, sister. You've got this. I love you. And I am so excited you spent the time on this training today. And I can't wait to hear from you soon. Take care. Talk to you soon.